So the first step is to look for problems, okay? And problems are absolutely everywhere. Sometimes you may have to look a little longer. Sometimes they're staring at you right in your face. But whatever the case may be, you always should be looking for problems and opportunities. And I think as an entrepreneur, that's what you're doing anyways, is because you saw a need and you saw yourself as having the expertise to be able to fill that need. And that's just usually how entrepreneurs work. So where do you actually look for problems? So a couple of areas: laws, guidance, regulations. So for me, CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, they create the problems for me, okay? Some of you may have heard of the Inflation Reduction Act that was passed into law by the Biden administration in 2022. Well, there's a part in there about healthcare and Medicare. And one of the provisions goes live January 1st, 2025. It's called M3P, which is short for Medicare Prescription Payment Plan. Medicare beneficiaries will be able to go to the pharmacy and not pay anything out of their pocket for their drugs, because they'll in turn be making payments to the plan so they can spread those drug costs out over the year. Well, it could potentially be an implementation nightmare, trying to make sure that plans are ready to go live January 1, 2025, because there's so many missing parts and pieces. So from my viewpoint, I'm going to go in and I'm going to look at the guidance and I'm going to say, okay, are there any things in here that we can do as a company? Is there any solutions that we have or we can provide for any of those things in here? So that's one way that you can identify problems, is just by looking in the guidance and the things that people have already posted out there for you. Reddit, Google Trends, and YouTube. So I just joined Reddit probably about a month ago now, and I joined it for the Medicare topic. So I also sell Medicare insurance, and in selling Medicare insurance as an agent, I go on to Reddit to see what questions Medicare beneficiaries have, and then I take that and I post videos and make videos on my YouTube channel, because if one Medicare beneficiary had that question, and then it's probably a bunch of other Medicare beneficiaries that's has that problem also. Well, the other thing that is good about Reddit, Google Trends, and YouTube for looking for problems is you get to see what problems people are having, and then you can figure out, do you have a solution for that said problem? And then news, okay, so the news itself may talk about different opportunities in the industry. And so maybe if you're a real estate agent and then you notice that the interest rates are dropping through the news, then maybe that's the time where you're really ramping up your sales and marketing so that you can get more houses sold, okay? Public ratings. Public ratings are things like Google reviews, open table reviews. So I have a colleague, and her business is all around customer service, and she wants to do it for the hospitality industry. So one of the places I recommend that she look is Google reviews. So you can go to a restaurant's page and you can see what the comments are. And if it's the food is great, but the customer service is terrible, that's an opportunity for her to go into that restaurant and that establishment and say, hey, I see from your public reviews, you're having some difficulties in the customer service. Here's the package that I have to offer to you. Mark Cuban said in his master class that whenever he goes to places like, a coffee shop or a restaurant or a grocery store or wherever, he's always looking for how are they doing the process now? And if he were the owner, how could he do it? Would he do it differently? Is there some opportunity to do it better? Okay, so that's what you should be thinking about as an entrepreneur. Everywhere you go, your head should always be thinking, how can I look for these problems? Is the problem something that I can actually solve? Is there a better way to do what I'm already seeing that's in the solution? What does it mean to sell the need? Okay, so sell the need, services sale is actually a life insurance term, and it came from an ethics course that I had to take. So in order to be a Medicare agent, you have to keep your license active, and it's the life, accident, and health. And so whenever I was doing the ethics module, it was talking about sell the need and services sale. And what that means is, as an insurance agent, a life insurance agent, you should never sell someone a policy that is too much or too little for what their needs are. So you have to go in and you have to assess the needs. So say you got a family of 4, a husband, a wife, 2 kids. The family revenue is $120,000 a year. Does that person need an $8 million life insurance policy? Probably not. Does that person need a $60,000 life insurance policy? No, because that's probably too little. And so you don't want to sell them not enough, and you also don't want to sell them anything egregious, because that is unethical, okay? And then the service to sell part comes by whenever you're going to make sure that the premium gets submitted on time. That first premium, the application gets submitted on time. Once the policy is written, that draft has to get out to the policy holder. They have to go through it. They're asking you questions whether or not this premium looks different than the premium you charged me. I have some questions about this. They have a review period. So you're there servicing the sale from when you actually meet with them to the time that you're actually submitting the premiums and the application to the time that the policy is actually received by them, and if they have any questions during that window before they're stuck so much with the policy. But I'm not gonna call it stuck, because you did the right thing that you were supposed to do. You gave them the right policy. You explained it well with great customer service, so the policy was exactly what they needed. So that's the service to sell piece of it. All right, let's go over the 4 parts of selling the need. It's going to be around problem analysis, action planning, recommendation, and implementation. Under problem analysis, you're going to have to use your ears, okay? You got to be a good listener. I can't stand when people listen just to talk, okay? And you can tell it when they're doing it because they're listening at you, but it's like they're leaned in and they're waiting for you to stop so that they can say something. You cannot be that kind of listener and be in an entrepreneurial space, because you're going to miss opportunities, okay? So you want to use your ears to find out what is the problem. Even your eyes, y'all. Yeah, use your ears and your eyes, because when I'm going through that guidance, looking for what is written by CMS, I'm trying to figure out what problems exist that my client may have, okay? Who has the problem, okay? What other people in the industry may have that problem? So what I was talking about earlier with the Inflation Reduction Act, that applies to any Medicare plan that offers a prescription drug product, okay? So who has the problems is what you're looking at for that one. Where is the opportunity? So what level is it at? The whole IRA thing, that's a huge opportunity. And it's, like I just said, it's everywhere where there's a Medicare Advantage product that has a prescription drug plan tied to it. And who made it an opportunity? That's important because it also can relate it to the urgency that the client actually has to implement. So let's say in this example again with CMS, it's pretty urgent because regulatory body CMS says it's got to be in place by January 1st, 2025. So that, because it's done by a regulatory body, has already given a certain level of urgency that these people have to find a vendor, they have to find a solution so that they can actually be in guidance. So who made it an opportunity is important. Next is action planning. Can the problem be solved? Now, I always look for problems and solutions, but not all problems can be solved. They're going to be, and I should say, not all problems can necessarily be solved by you. I do believe we can spark change, but like the healthcare system, I'm a pharmacist, like I said, the healthcare system is in shambles. The only way I really see fixing it is to throw it all away and just starting over. And so it's not necessarily that it can't be solved. It's just going to take a tremendous amount of work to get it solved, okay? And so what you're looking for is not only can it be solved, but can it be solved by you? If there's something that you can't solve in that particular one, or you don't have a vendor that can solve it, that you can connect the two together, move on to something else, okay? How can you solve the problem? So how can you solve the problem? Do you have something that is already built? So bullets 2 and 3 go together. So do you have something internally built that you can actually use to solve the problem? So we had a client who came to us and said one of their pharmacy directors was having to retire, and they only were able to give a 4-week notice. Okay. So when you're working in these corporate jobs, trying to fill a position in 4 weeks is pretty much impossible. And so that was going to leave a gap in their team during a very critical time. So when they came to me and let me know, the first thing I did was they wanted to pick my network. So I made a post on LinkedIn to see if there was anybody who could go ahead and start sending in resumes so we can get them looking at them to see if they were going to be a fit. And then from there, I said, well, you know what? Because I'm anticipating their needs. I said, in the meantime, I have filled these fractional roles before. And I use the word fractional. You can use the word temporary, but it's basically bringing in a subject matter expert who is able to work not as a consultant, so to speak. They'll label you as consultant, but literally you're going in as that person and you're picking up where they left off and you're running with the projects that they have. And so I offered that service to them. So I had that solution ready. Now I had another client. This is actually how our concierge pharmacy program got started. He came to us and he said, Renata, he said, do you think that you all could build a service around helping these members get their needed prescription drugs? And I said, well, tell me more. And I listened to him and what he wanted to accomplish. And I said, absolutely, we can do that. And so that's actually how our concierge pharmacy program got started. So you may not have the solution already built, but you may have the means to build that solution. The other thing I will tell you is about pre-sale. So I have a managed care online course that we sell. I sold that course before it was 100% finished. Okay. So some of you may be thinking, oh, I've got to have everything figured out from A to Z before I can go to market and sell. No, you don't. You can, if you've got the idea, there's nothing wrong with pre-selling what you actually have. And oftentimes when you pre-sell, it puts a sense of urgency behind you, especially when you start to see people buy it, because now you got to finish it because you've already sold it. I'm a 10X business coach with Grant Cardone, and he uses this analogy. He says your cell phone is the biggest thing that's not finished, but you buy. And all they do is when something is broke or something needs a new release, it's called a software update. Okay. So think of your products exactly as that. You may be releasing it for sale and it's not 100% finished. Then you just do a software update. Phone companies do it all the time. So try to start thinking in that manner. And then can you build a solution? And we talked about that. Expertise is huge, y'all, in this bucket, because you can't necessarily move on to step 3, which is implementation, if you don't have the level of expertise to fully analyze that problem and actually come up with some proposed solutions. So you're going to have to be an expert in the field. All right, product recommendations is next. This is education. All right, so I try and listen to what the problem is, do the analysis, and then when I'm doing my recommendation, I'm using all the information that I've gathered from the client, and I'm presenting it in a way to make the client realize that the solution that I've come up with, the solution that I'm offering, was their idea. Okay, and by that, what I mean is, you're going to listen to the problem, you're going to identify the suite of solutions that are available, and you're going to narrow down what the solution should be. Now, not all times is my solution the best solution. So you always want to do the right thing. If I am not the person for the solution, but I found another vendor that is, then you're going to recommend that vendor. Okay. But from an education standpoint, you want to tell the client and implement and recommend to the client the strategy and the solution that you've vetted that's going to best fit their needs. What this does then is it leaves a decision in their hands, and you've given them enough credible information so that they can make an informed decision, and that empowers your client to stick behind the decision that they made. The broker I work for selling Medicare has a saying that we've never sold an insurance policy in our entire lives. We educate the Medicare beneficiary on the best product for them and allow them to make an informed, educated decision on which plan they should actually enroll in. So education is very important when you're coming to your product recommendations, and it's also going to help you build people into brand champions, because now people are not necessarily making decisions because somebody told them to. They fully understand and are educated on that viable solution, and they can go back internally and explain it and stick behind it as you go through implementation. Which brings us to implementation. You're not going to just do the consulting piece of it. Here's the solutions. You can do that. There's a lot of companies that do that. So let me back up. There's a lot of companies that do that. If that's what you want to do, that is fine. Okay. So there's a lot of consultants out there, and that is absolutely fine. My company, on the other hand, we take it a step further and we actually implement. The reason we do the implementation piece is because when I'm doing the problem analysis, I know there are a lot of consulting firms out here that will just go in and give you the strategy. And I also know that these health plans, what they don't have is the manpower to execute the strategy. They don't have the manpower and they don't have the time. Okay. So they're looking for someone who can say, okay, all these ideas and the strategy is great, but where am I going to get the time and the people to do it? So that's my competitive edge, is by taking it all the way through to implementation. You do not have to do that. You can look in your industry and see, maybe the industry you're in, all you need to go the further you need to go is just the consulting piece. That is fine, but I would encourage you to find that competitive advantage that you can add to make your service better, and a differentiator from the market. Okay, so you're going to we implement the agreed solution with exemplary customer service. Now, customer service just does not stop just when the contract is signed. Okay, when you're out at these networking events, you're getting leads, you're talking about the product, you're gathering all the information, the problem analysis, all that kind of stuff. All the customer service elements must be there from before they're even a client, before they're even a prospect, all the way through implementation and then after implementation. Let's use an example from my Medicare business. Whenever I bring on a client, I am going through to make sure all their drugs are covered, what their drug copays are going to be, are there physicians in the network, letting them understand how to navigate the website, answering any questions that they may have, and then I sign them up into the plan and I follow up with them once they get their ID cards and they get their packets in the mail and help them to understand it. I check on them at least twice a year just to see if they have any questions. Now, I would, if I was doing that full time, would like to maybe call them once a month or once every other month, but I just don't have the time because of my other business. But that is how you're talking about servicing the sale after. Just because I got the commission and as long as they stay with me and don't leave, I'll get the commission every year. I'm not going to continue to service that client. And so the part with PSIN when it comes to good customer service around execution is we should have a fairly flawless implementation. And then after that, we're going to be delivering on the promises and the services that we said we were going to deliver upon.